What's up, y'all? Will here at Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, brought to you by Schedulefly, our restaurant employee scheduling software. Simple software, legendary customer service. If you're not using it, you should. Check it out. But more importantly, brought to you by a couple of sponsors, Pop Menu and Kickfin, which you'll hear about here momentarily. This is a must-listen episode. If you want to hear somebody who truly has a great handle on wonderful hospitality and building a great hospitality business and learning and growing and thriving in this industry, then you need to listen to Kate Woolverton, Chief Operations Officer at Niche Food Group in St. Louis, Missouri. She's been with this group for 12 years, started out as a hostess. Now she's Chief Operations Officer, and she gets it, y'all. I mean, she really understands what it takes to be successful in this industry, to build a team in this industry, to build a thriving business. She's surrounded by great people, works for a great owner, Gerard, and is just so good at not just understanding, but articulating all that it takes. So I had a great conversation with her. I could have talked to her for a lot longer. I will definitely be inviting her back on the podcast someday if she'll honor us with doing that, because this is just great content. Y'all spread this episode around. If you love hospitality, if you care about hospitality, we want to keep spreading this podcast. We've got great guests on here, and that is just very fortunate that we're lucky at Schedulefly to serve so many incredible people in this wonderful industry. So without further ado, we're going to get right to the conversation with Kate. But before we do, a word from our sponsor and our partner at Schedulefly, Pop Menu. Pop Menu is, well, they're a partner of Schedulefly, and we have a lot of happy mutual customers. But Pop Menu is all about making your day easier and your sales bigger. They will simplify your marketing operations, bring in more guests, capture customer data for personalized remarketing to keep them coming back. With one super simple to use platform that integrates with most point of sales like Toast and Square and a number of others, Pop Menu starts with a beautifully designed, easy to update interactive menu that transforms the guest experience online. It includes a brand new website that's optimized for search engines like Google for no additional cost, automated digital marketing, online ordering and waitlisting, and you'll never miss another call with their AI answering solution that costs as little as 47 cents an hour. Check it out. Check out the link in our show notes. There's so much more in Pop Menu. Here's my 2 cents. I've talked to a lot of our mutual customers, and here's what they say about Pop Menu. Great company, great customer service, great product, great results. Check out Pop Menu and check out this episode of Restaurant Owners Uncorked. Thank you all for listening. See ya. So you can see me and you can hear me.
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, good. Good.
Absolutely. How's everything going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in St. Louis. So I got the windows open. It's kind of amazing. I'm gonna soak that up before it completely goes away.
Will it get really hot in St. Louis over the summertime?
Oh, it's nasty here. Yeah, it's super humid. That's the worst part. The heat's one thing, but the humidity makes it pretty unbearable. So
Yeah, we get that here in North Carolina too. I
I was
didn't
gonna say you're probably familiar. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. A good day to be able to have your windows open for sure. Do you work
Yeah.
at home, like between home and the office a lot?
Yeah, I'm mostly post-COVID working from home, but I bounce around to every one of our restaurants or wherever is needed. This is kind of my home base now, but I can be in 100 different places in a week, so just depends.
That's good. All right. Well, Kate, just do me a favor and just introduce yourself real quick.
Sure. My name is Kate Woolverton. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Niche Food Group, which is based out of St. Louis, Missouri.
All right. And you've been with this group for quite a while.
Just had my 12th year anniversary. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I regret not having a party or anything or champagne. I did nothing. I kind of forgot. So
kept cranking. Well, okay, so I was, I was reading your history on LinkedIn. So you started there 12 years ago, and you've been just moving up ever since. Tell me about, why did you get into hospitality in the first place? What drew you into this crazy world?
Sure. That's a great question. I think when I graduated from college, I actually have a degree in religion and English, which is unusual, I guess. I obviously didn't have a career path outlined. I just really thought it was interesting, and so stuck with that. I thought I was taking a summer job just to buy some time, figure out what I was doing, and I started as a host at a restaurant that had just been remodeled. It was a well-regarded restaurant near my house, and I thought, well, this will be, kill some time, give me some space, and I just kind of fell in love with it. Every day is different. There's incredibly unique and interesting people that you get to meet and work with and learn from. You get to eat a lot of food and drink a lot of wine, which is also an added benefit. And it's just, for me in hosting especially, it was like a big puzzle, and I loved solving that problem every day and taking care of people in the process. And I think I always knew, even though I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I probably kind of still couldn't define it, I just knew that I wasn't going to do something boring and sort of typical. And so restaurants just kind of fit the bill for that. I followed a really great manager that I had when he left and went to Brasserie by Niche, which was one of our restaurants, and was a host there, and then just kind of developed from there. So I really had basically one restaurant job before I started with this company, and have kind of learned everything in the process. And my terrible joke is I just kept asking for more to do, and they happily obliged. So.
Well, you've obviously done well at the things you've been tasked to do, so they keep giving you more responsibilities. Well, it sounds like it must be an amazing group. You've been there for 12 years. Tell me about the group itself, and particularly, I'd love to talk about the culture there.
Yeah, and actually, I just over the weekend had listened to your sort of sneak preview for the week and talking about introducing the new sessions on culture, and I was like, oh, that's right up my alley. It's exactly what I love to hear about and talk about. So our restaurant group is owned by Gerard Kraft. He's a James Beard Award-winning chef from the Midwest, first one from Missouri to win. So it was a big source of pride for us. He started our flagship restaurant, which is no longer in operation, but that we won the Beard for, called Niche, in 2005. And my favorite part about that story is that he was living in Salt Lake at the time with his wife, and wanted to move to St. Louis, and found this restaurant, this space in Sydney Street on Craigslist, and sight unseen, essentially just beyond pictures, said, okay, I'll take it, and came down here and opened this restaurant. Yeah. And the very humble beginnings, that's for sure. And, so now we have 10 concepts that we operate. We've, opened and closed a few in the process. We've got 3 on the horizon. So we stay really busy, but I'm not even the oldest employee that we have. We have some that have been here 16, 17, 18 years. So there's a lot of us, and especially in the senior management group, that have been in the company for a long time and started at different positions or in different restaurants, and have sort of stuck around. And part of that is just because of all those same people and working alongside of them. It's just this really perfectly sort of balanced team. And that's what's so, I think, unique about our group, is that my job title or any of our job titles are sort of ill-defined or not defined, because we sort of define them. And so we all balance each other out. We have different skill sets, and we really kind of make this one big unique puzzle that we all just really kind of focus on our strengths. And then I know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. And I know that all my colleagues and all my professional friends are the ones that kind of pick up the slack where I lack. And that's what sort of makes us so interesting and unique and powerful, in my opinion. It's just that we have a really diverse group of skills and people that can kind of do a lot of different things. So
Talk about Greg as a leader.
Gerard, he's
Gerard, I'm sorry.
No. It's either Gerald or Gerard. He's got all kinds of names that we love to tease him with. It's kind of amazing. He's done this big transformation since the time I've been in the company. And he would be happy to talk to it too, that, he sort of went from a very typical chef mentality, very much, a me kind of culture, and like, he dictated everything. He oversaw everything. He micromanaged a lot. And with that amount of control that you're trying to uphold, it becomes really hard to manage or do anything, because you're just so wound up with what everybody's doing or not doing. And really, I think what he discovered is that being a true leader is trusting other people to do those things for you, and building up a team and giving them the freedom to try things or to do things on behalf of the group. And so he made a very big concentrated effort to go from a we culture, OUI, like a yes chef culture, to a we, like an all-encompassed culture. And we defined our core values at that time, and we all sort of live and die by them now. And I'm the first one to say that, like, that stuff typically doesn't work on me very well, actually. But I've really definitely bought in, and all of them are things that we utilize every day. One of them the one we talk about the most is failure. Failure is one of our core values. And I think that encompasses a lot, that we're really given the freedom and the autonomy and the permission to fail, and told that, like, failing is such a critical component of growth and innovation and learning from, I mean, everything that I've learned has come from some mistake that I've made, or something that didn't go the way that I had planned it to be. And I'm kind of a perfectionist. And so that was hard at first to kind of wrap my head around, but it's been really liberating, especially to know that that's not going to jeopardize my career or my job or the restaurant, entirely. Like, we all make mistakes, and we all have to try things to see how they go. I think that really, it encompasses a lot. Hospitality is our first and foremost value, and not just to customers, and not just the idea of hospitality, but to each other. And so that's been a big part of that push too, is to really have a group full of people, managers and staff and people across the entire company, just to feel a part of something and to be given that same hospitality that we would, to our guests. So he's grown a lot as a leader and pushed us to grow as leaders in the process. And I think every year we get even stronger and better, for sure.
That's a big transition, and a really commendable one. What was the, did you just get to a point, do you get to a break point where you're just like, there's just no way I can do this anymore? I'm managing 1,000 things, my own, everything's got to come through me. I'm the bottleneck to our growth. Like, is that kind of what he went through? Because, you see, it's amazing. Like, I see groups like yours and Gerard and different leaders around the country that have groups that are, of similar size, that it started with one person who was this talented, driven, magnetic, smart personality, but the only way they went from that, one place to the second, to the third, fifth, 10th, was that person had to step back. That person had to go through a pretty significant change, had to delegate, had to allow for a lot of autonomy, and lead people in just a very different way.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed it. I think he would say that almost verbatim, that it just got to a point that I think was just too hard to manage personally and professionally. And knowing we were growing a lot at the time, we were expanding, beyond just that one restaurant that we had initially. And coming, with that comes the having to recognize and accept that you have less control. The bigger you get, the less control you really have over the day to day. And that's really hard. I think that's a hard thing to accept. It would be hard for me, for him, especially for him. The company represents him. It's so personal to him. And I think trusting anybody to do anything on your behalf or, in your stead is really difficult. And so I think that was a big acknowledgement. It was just like, he couldn't move forward anymore. Knew that if he's not moving forward in that same way, then the company isn't progressing either. And it took a big adjustment, but it was a very honest, it's one of our other core values is honesty, is a really honest realization that things have to change in order for us to keep going forward. And it took time for that to evolve, for those ideas to kind of be put on paper, for them to be distilled down into a few values that sort of encompass all of those things. And especially over time for that to be adopted, across the company. But now, every employee gets a copy of that, and we talk about it frequently, and it comes into play in just about every decision that we make. So it was a worthwhile investment, that's for sure. And I think he would say that he's in a much better place than he was back then. I think we all are. So.
Well, okay. So over time, I mean, are you spending, have you had to transition from not being there on the floor? I mean, it's an exciting thing being in the restaurant. And like you said, you know, when you were hosting, you were piecing a puzzle together. And as you've grown, you know, I'm assuming you may be spending less time with the guests and with in the restaurants. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I actually think I feel like I cheated the system a little bit because I skipped a lot of steps. I was a host and you know, it was my full-time job. I loved it. I was dedicated to it. I did a lot of other things too. You know, I started doing like payroll and started going to the bank and stuff, like little small responsibilities. And but I was never a restaurant manager. I was a server for a very brief period of time. And I was terrible at it. So, you know, again, I know what my strengths are, and I think I've always been. I've seen it all in action. I've been a part of a restaurant for many years. I know how they operate, but I think I'm most comfortable in a behind the scenes type of role. So I have enough knowledge to understand how things operate, but I entrust the people that are gifted at that to do that, because I am not. I think I'd be a lot better at it now than I was 10 plus years ago. But so I kind of feel like I cheated the system a little bit. So I feel like I've always been in a supportive role to everybody else, to all the sort of savants and the hospitality just geniuses that we have, that I'm there to do the stuff that, you know, notoriously restaurant people don't love doing, you know, spreadsheets and admin work, but also just human resource support and talking a lot and meetings and, you know, those sort of things. That's, I think, where I'm most comfortable and where I excel. So it's not been hard for me in many respects. I do a lot of hands-on stuff at the restaurants still. I certainly am around a lot, but not in a service capacity, certainly as much as I used to be, but I think that's where I'm meant to be. So.
Okay. So yes, I did mention in that episode that over the weekend that we're really starting to talk about culture. And it's just something I find it fascinating because we've been doing this long enough, and I've seen organizations like yours and others that have been able to find a way to balance growth with maintaining their culture. And to me, I find that to be a very interesting topic. I feel like it can't be easy to do because, I mean, we've also seen people that have grown and their culture has changed and they've become more corporate. And then the people that were around early on, when it was more of like a homegrown culture, they leave and they go somewhere else because they're like, hey, we've gotten too corporate now. And then, but some, you know, those are like a lot of the people that really made the place great, and it just changes so much. So not that that's wrong, but it's just, I find it really interesting when I see groups like yours that are able to find the right balance of growth and all that comes with that, but still being able to maintain that same culture that made this such a great place to be, which is why you're still there 12 years later. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's such a well way of putting it, is that as you grow, how do you maintain that connectivity and that community? And it gets harder. It certainly does. The bigger it gets, especially as we bring in a lot of new people. I mean, restaurants are always constantly evolving. There's at least, you know, the national average is like at least at 100% turnover rate every year. Ours is a little bit less than that, thankfully. But you see so many new people, and every person in restaurants is in a different stage of their life. You know, they're there in restaurants for different reasons. Not everybody ends up being a lifer like me, or, you know, they're there just during school or whatever it might be. So that's a challenge in and of itself, is to provide an environment and a community and a culture that appeals to the masses in many ways. That, you know, there are a lot of different types of people, and that's what's so great about it. But it's, how do you have something and present something to them that makes them feel connected to it, so that they do stay for the longest amount of time that they can and give the most that they can. We've continuously tried to develop and introduce new benefits that are certainly, I think, industry unique. We introduced a 401k program last year or the year before. We have, you know, paid time off. We have paid parental leave for our salaried managers. We offer free counseling sessions through this EAP that we have with a local company, and that's been really successful to us. So it's always going to be challenging, especially as we're going to be growing a lot in the next year or so. So it's just, I think, about listening to people, trying to appeal to things that they need, and taking care of them the best that you can. Everything always comes down to people. and the community and the connectivity. When we shut down for COVID, like everybody else did, it was imperative to me to try to make everyone feel like they were still a part of something, even though they wouldn't be working for an indeterminate amount of time. Everybody thought 2 weeks and then et cetera. We've all gone through that. So really trying to keep people connected, making them still feel a part of this group, like that there's an identity to being a niche food group employee. And I think we've done a good job of cultivating that over the years. And we really want all of our restaurants to have that same feeling when people go to them, and that there's a lot of, interchangeable, that it's like recognizable when you're at maybe our French restaurant versus our Italian. It doesn't matter. It's just, that you're part of this greater group. So connecting threads throughout the entire restaurant group, trying to make it feel like one big community has been really helpful. We always are going to have lots of room for improvement and constantly things that we could be doing better. And it's funny you say, like, getting too corporate and people will leave. Like, sometimes I think we could be a little more corporate, and introduce some, some other things that would make things concise and, a little bit easier for people too. But, that's part of growing pains as well, as you expand resources and all that sort of stuff. So I don't have the answer, as a short way of putting it, but people's at the core.
People. Yeah, it's such an
Yeah.
important part. So I'm interested. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the benefits that you are doing now, because I feel like, people, it's the other thing I've been thinking a lot about. Like, you've got, mental health is such a big topic now, and it's been something that was not addressed well in the industry for a long time. And now you're hearing a lot more, resources that are available. Physical health is so important, just finding time to take care of ourselves mentally, physically. Financial health is something too that so wonderful that y'all have a 401k plan. There's just so many aspects of people's lives that if we can find ways to kind of make things easier, then it de-stresses them and gives the ability to give us all that we need them to do. So I'm curious, do y'all tell me a little bit, like, so for instance, your 401k. So that means you've obviously got, well, I know this, you've got over 100 employees, because a simple IRA is less than 100 or whatever. And y'all, how many employees do y'all have now?
A little over 300.
A little over 300. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then they
So we're back to, that's where we were prior to COVID. And then we went back down to like 175, and we've been slowly building back up since then. So we're a little bit at about over 300 right now again.
Okay. Do people, I'm very curious about this, and you don't have to give like details, but do people participate in the 401k?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's growing. I think it appeals to certain people at certain stages in their life more than others. But our 401k is available to part-time, full-time, whatever. Any of our employees can take part. And I think that's part of the, what we've been trying to, the first benefit that we ever introduced was health insurance, and that at the time was, just innovative. It's like restaurants, you just didn't get that at the time. And it was a part of the, I think, cultural change into recognizing that hospitality is a career, that it's not just some job. It's not, I think so much has evolved in our industry and the world, certainly, but in our industry too, that I've seen even in the last decade, is like, it's an entirely different landscape, and it's thought of in a lot different ways. And I think, maybe that's because, chefs and baking and things are out in the public sphere a lot more, and it's a lot more accessible, and people love eating out, and food culture has changed or become more prevalent. Maybe that has something to do with it. But, when I started, I felt like it wasn't really considered a career at the time. It was sort of like a placeholder. And now I feel like it is a professional career. And I think people culturally and societally kind of recognize that a little bit more. And so it's that much more imperative to provide the same types of benefits that you would find in any corporate job or whatever it might be, some kind of traditional quote unquote career, because we want people to feel like they can be in this industry forever and that it is sustainable. And that's been another big challenge, is that wasn't always the case. It's notorious for it being rough on you mentally, physically. And so we're trying to combat that and counteract that with all kinds of things. And again, like you said, like the 401k, like before, health insurance was inconceivable, and now it's just about thinking about, okay, taking that further. Like having time off was inconceivable, we have that now. Saving for your future, actually being able to retire, like that should be a realistic goal for all of us, regardless of your industry, but certainly in restaurants. And so we're always looking for ways that we can introduce new things that will make people be able to stay in this industry forever, and to know that it's a professional career just as valid as any, corporate job would be if you're in an office, everything, ultimately restaurants are an ecosystem, and the people that work in the restaurants, we want them, it's imperative for them to feel good about what they're doing and feel good and connected to something when they come in every day, because ultimately that's what translates to the guest experience. So if you have, I'm sure you've had servers or experiences where you were like, oh, these people hate being here. Like, this is not a happy place for them. And we want people to enjoy being at work, and actually feel a part of something that works for them. And we're trying really hard. One of our big goals is to introduce a 4-day work week, especially for our kitchen staff, but any of our managers, especially, because restaurant hours are long hours and you're already working 40 hours a week in a few days mostly. So trying to condense that schedule to give people a little bit bigger breath. I think that's the next phase of benefits is, personal wellness and time, giving people time. That's such a valuable thing, and it's hard to come by. So again, all these different benefits, they appeal to different people, and we don't have everybody buy into all of them, but as long as it suits the need of some people, then that's absolutely worth having for sure.
All right, y'all. Time for a little mid-episode break to talk about Kickfin, our mid-episode sponsor and a great business. Thousands of restaurants, bars, and breweries use Kickfin to tip out their employees instantly, no cash required. With Kickfin, tips go directly to your employer's bank of choice the second their shift ends. It's a really simple solution to a really big problem, because if you're still paying out credit card tips in cash, it's costing you. Time-consuming bank runs and cash counting take managers away from work that matters. Cash is hard to track, which leads to accounting headaches, and it creates the perfect opportunity for theft, human error, and compliance issues. Bottom line, there's never been an instant, secure way to pay out tips until Kickfin. It's an easy-to-use software that sends real-time cashless tip payouts straight to your employees' bank accounts 24/7, 365. Kickfin gives managers hours back in their day, makes reporting a breeze, and protects your business from risk. Most importantly, employees love it. Restaurants can have Kickfin up and running overnight. Employees can enroll in seconds. No hardware, no contracts, no setup fees. Visit kickfin.com for a personalized demo and see how restaurants across the country are digitizing tips with Kickfin. That's what they like me to read. I will tell you this. I know the folks at Kickfin. Check out the episode with Brian Hassan, the co-CEO of Kickfin, was on here on the podcast. Great people, love what they do. They treat their customers well. We have mutual customers that love the product and love the way the relationship they have with Kickfin. So check it out, link in the show notes, and let's check out the rest of this episode.
Hey, I think it's so amazing to see what y'all and so many of these, kind of leading edge groups are doing, because I mean, you just laid out the case for, what a great career this can be. And it for so long, it really was like, I'm just going to work there until I get a job, because I want a job with health insurance and a 401k. I need these benefits and I can't get them at the restaurant, and I've got a family. And the cool thing is, this is what I love about it, is that if the more y'all keep turning up these benefits and providing these resources, then all of a sudden that turnover just keeps notching down more and more, because people have less reason to leave, which turnover is like massively expensive. And if we can keep people there, and we have this wonderful culture where, what's so great about really good, well-run restaurant groups like yours are, as you said, you're growing. So you're the perfect example of somebody that came in 12 years ago as a hostess, and now look where you are, and look how much room you have to continue to grow. So, to me, I did not understand this when we started doing this with Schedulefly, but over the years of doing this podcast and meeting our customers and learning so much from you, I've really realized that it's just amazing industry where you know, there's no, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, your socioeconomic background, what degree you have. I mean, religion and English, it could be, it could be no degree. It's, are you willing to come here and work hard with this team and contribute and, you know, buy into our culture and just do everything we can to make people that come through our doors feel welcome and happy. And if you're willing to do that, then sky's the limit. I mean, you can grow in a group like Niche and eventually learn so much that maybe you decide one day, I'm going to go hang my shingle out and start my own place. And then the cool thing about groups like yours is, and I know this without asking you, is that when you've had people that do that, y'all are probably the first customers that go support them. And that's always the case with great groups. And so to me, has become and is continuing to become a very, very compelling career, especially, and now you're talking about 4-day weeks. I mean, this is the life balance. As you said, time is such an incredibly valuable resource. So when you have companies in any industry that are looking out for your mental health, your physical health, your financial health, your work-life balance, like, dude, what a great place to be. And especially when it's, you know, restaurants will always be here. They always have been. They're all great. Restaurants are always going to be around. And if you get aligned with organizations that get that culture right and understand that and treat people really well, it is just an unbelievable place to hang your hat. So that's what I've learned.
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, like, I think that's beyond the sort of financial costs that it is to deal with turnover and introduce new people all the time. We much prefer to do internal promotion for any position, because you can teach anybody to do anything, a physical or like knowledge-based skill, but the culture aspect is so critical to everything and informs everything. Like you said, we just want people to care. Like, do you care? Just care about what you're doing, and we can teach you to do everything else. And so that understanding, that deep understanding of how to interact with our colleagues, how to take care of guests, how to go above and beyond, how to take ownership of what you do. It's so hard to teach, and it takes time and investment. And so if we have those people, we also want to give them a future, something, you know, the same ladder that I can climb, I want somebody to be right behind me, talking about, you know, succession and looking at people and investing in them and giving them a future to grow into. And unfortunately, you know, we have a small senior management group, and I hope that we continue to expand it so that we can continue to expand opportunities for the people that have been dedicated and are taking the reins and are going to be the people that succeed us and take on responsibility, you know, making an investment in them because they're making an investment in us. And that ultimately is always going to pay off. You know, we want lots of me's around, I guess, or like, you know, our director of culinary operations has been with us for many years. Our director of service has been here longer than I have. Our vice president has been here longer than I have. Like, we have so many people that have dedicated a big chunk, if not an entirety of their career here. And that's what makes it so amazing. And that's what we want to continue to see. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we have right now, is that we've sort of cycled through all of our long-term employees in many respects, and that, you know, there've been plenty that have gone on to open their own restaurants or to pursue their own careers in different ways, and we're always supportive of that, and always feel really proud that, like, we had, you know, just even a small little tiny bit of connectivity to that. And so we're just looking for that next generation of people to take the reins and to continue to help us grow. And so, you know, investing the time, we're in the early stages of investing time in a lot of new talent. And so it's exciting, but it's also sort of scary too, because you're just waiting and looking for the right people. And I think many restaurant people would recognize that COVID has really driven a lot of people into new industries too. I think you could say that about any industry. It's made everybody kind of rethink what they're doing. And so we may have absorbed a lot of people that we're getting from other industries, and other industries are benefiting from the, you know, this people that we had in our companies over those years. So you're dealing with a lot of new people into the industry as well. But I see that as an opportunity, a new untapped pool of talent that hopefully will invest in our future as much as we are more than willing to invest in theirs. So
are you seeing, I mean, I know for the longest time it was like impossible to find anybody to work, and it seems like, but I feel like people that left, I was always wondering where everybody was going, but it seems like more people are coming back, or maybe, as you said, it's just the next generation of people that are coming into the industry.
Yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint, and there's not one reason for it. And I think it probably changes uh, by where you are in the country or in the world. Like there's so many factors that, I think it would be short-sighted for any of us to say this is exactly why and this is exactly what's happening. It's just not that simple. Um, I think a lot of people, there's a lot of strain that restaurants put onto people historically, and I can completely understand why people would want to leave the industry if something a little bit more stable, especially after going through COVID and not knowing if that stability would ever return. And there's so many factors, and so I don't know. I don't pretend to know. I think that it's I think we have to work hard as an industry to reappeal to people, younger people, a new generation of people, or people looking for a change. And again, it goes back into investing into, showing that restaurants can be professional careers, and that they can offer the same kind of things. And it does appeal to a certain kind of person, someone who is, wants to have an exciting day in and day out, and loves taking care of people. And any of those skill sets. That's what's so nice about restaurants, is you can hop in at any time. We have tons of people that have come to us at midpoints in their careers that have completely different backgrounds, and they just start over. And you can figure it out pretty quick if like you said, if you care, if you're willing to put the time in. So I can't explain all of it. I think we'll see, and I think, I'm in a slightly smaller town as compared to, like, a New York or an LA or Chicago of the world. St. Louis is not exactly like, capital of the nation, but, we do a lot with a little, and I think our pool of people is a lot smaller to pull from. So I think the next phase is also looking to bringing people in from other cities, that especially as cost of living continues to grow everywhere. Like that's one of the benefits of living like in a city like St. Louis, is that it's still somewhat affordable and it's still manageable. And we also have incredible things to offer as a city, cultural pieces, and great communities of things, and certainly excellent sports teams, which appeal to some people too. And our food scene is insane. It's incredible. It's so deep with talent. And camaraderie. Like everybody in town, we all support each other. We've all known each other a long time. There's no benefit then to not support one another. So I hope that we continue to maybe just start to appeal to people that are from outside of our region too, as people move here in response to other things that are happening in the country too. And maybe that will be the next wave of people that enter the industry here. I don't know. It's hard to know. I don't pretend to know anything.
Well, y'all are, I mean, you're obviously a, extraordinarily highly regarded group there in St. Louis. I really wish I had been planning on coming out there a couple months ago, and I still want to at some point. I'd love to come hang out with you.
You absolutely should.
Okay, so an English and religion major. So do you read a lot?
I wish I read more now. I have read a lot, but I don't have time for books right now, unfortunately.
What do you do?
I hate to out myself.
That's okay. I mean, I don't read nearly as much as I want to either. Although I will recommend. I have my copy right here. I did a podcast with these guys recently, so I have to at least pitch this book.
Please.
Hospitality DNA. It's a great book, just came out. Dave and Dave, we had an hour and a half long podcast a couple weeks ago, met with them in person. I mean, just to give you an example, like you can probably see
that's great.
third of the pages are dog-eared, and like these are all my little sticky notes for stuff I wanted to ask them. So
awesome. Yeah.
Great. They spent 3 years talking to some of the most successful hospitality owners around the world, and kind of wrote what they thought is sort of the common DNA that they all share. And just with sparing you all this, I mean, you personally clearly share all of this, which is why you're so good at what you do. Anyway, good read if you have time. What do you do with your free time? What free time do you have?
Great question. Well, my sister was living in New York with her boyfriend for many years, and they moved back at the end of COVID, and we hadn't lived in the same city in forever. And so any free time that I have, I force her to hang out with me and spend time with me, because it's just such a joy to have her here. And they both live, they live together like a mile from my house. So we spend a lot of time together. I've unabashedly love Formula One racing, so I've spent a lot of my weekends watching that when I can.
Really? How did you get into Formula One racing?
I just, like everybody else years and years ago, started watching that stupid Netflix show. And then I was like, I just want to watch races. Like, this is too dramatized for me. And now I follow the sport really closely. And I actually, last year, it's weird, the 1 year anniversary. So this Sunday is actually the race in Montreal in Canada. And my family and we all went to the race last year in Canada. So it's because I've kind of infected the rest of my family and sort of dragged them into it too. So now we all do it together, which is fun.
I need to watch that show. I've heard about it. I've never watched it. I've heard a lot of good things. Now you may have just turned. Okay, so so it really sport, huh?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of like things about like, management too, and managing teams and culture and all those things kind of bleed into. So there's like enough of that interest of just like my day to day that I relate to, that I find really fascinating, group organizations and company organizations and talent acquisition and all that stuff is really fascinating to me. So it appeals to me on multiple levels, for sure.
Do you travel a lot?
I don't. I wish I did. I try to take at least like one trip every year. Even if I love going to Phoenix. I love the dry heat there. So I went there last year. I wish I traveled more. I would love to get back to Berlin or Copenhagen. I've gone a few times and would love to take a trip like that, but it's been a minute.
I hear you. I hear you. What else is on your mind? What else have we not talked about that we should?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I have to say that I very much admire Schedulefly, and I have always thought very highly of your company. And I'm really honored to have this opportunity to talk with you, but I also just really admire how you can keep your group so tidy and organized. It's just a few of you still operating it, right?
There's just 5 of us. And by the way, that was not a setup for this. So
I know. No,
okay.
Trust me. Yeah, there's no trap. I know. But I sincerely mean that. Like, I really I've talked to other restaurant owners that I know, and like if I ever can recommend Schedulefly, I do. I think it's ubiquitous in our industry to an extent, at least for us. But that's something that's always really been fascinating to me, is that you've been able to maintain such a small group of people to operate everything. I think the fact that I can email and I hear from one of you when I have a problem or something is really incredible. So I guess I would be interested about how you manage that from your perspective. Like, how do you keep a company like that? Because you're still growing, you take on new customers still, I suspect you're growing. How do you manage that? And especially you're doing this podcast, it must take up a lot of time. Like, that's impressive. What's the key to that?
Wow. Well, this was very unexpected, but very kind of you to bring that up. It's a great question. We have a very unusual business. We've had 5 people for 16 years, the exact same 5. We knew each other. We all worked in a previous business. We all kind of knew what each other could do, and we have a lot of trust in each other. And we just, we decided early on we didn't want to take on venture capital. So we bootstrapped the business. With that comes all the demands and pressures of constant growth. And, so we've limited ourselves for sure. I mean, we have like 6,000 customers now. We could probably have 5 times as many customers if we had, started early on with that, but we'd have 5 million times the stress and headaches and everything else. And we value time a lot. We all have kids. And so we value having good work-life balance. And we know kind of who we are and where we play well. We play really well in the space where people want just a simple, reliable software and great customer service when they need it. And that's our foundation. And because we've kept our software really simple, a lot of times, the tendency with software is you keep add. And then you take something that was simple and you make it complicated and frustrating, and then it requires more support and so on. So we've tried to keep it simple. Therefore, when somebody like you calls or emails, you're going to get an answer or, a quick response, because our support level is like nothing. I mean, we might get, I still get the phone calls. Like the 800 calls come to me, and it might be 5 phone calls a day. We might get 30 emails a day, and we got, 250,000 end users out there hitting this thing constantly. So that's been our balance, is just finding that balance where we're satisfied that the company is friction free and profitable. And then it allows us to, I believe so much in, and we've learned a lot, honestly, from you and your peers, and from doing this podcast, we learn from so many great people that run successful hospitality businesses what hospitality really is. And what it really is, it's inviting people into your home and making them feel welcome and appreciated and cared for and like they matter. And when you've got some massive company with some call center and take a ticket and all this kind of stuff, like that's not. And so we've always said, if we're gonna so like if we're going to sell a product to the hospitality industry, why don't we provide that same hospitality that they give to everybody back to them? That's what they deserve and what they should expect. So that's been our approach. And boy, this podcast has been incredibly valuable because it keeps us, I mean, look, like we have thousands of customers all over the country. There's no possible way to engage those customers and get to know those customers, so this gives me a chance to get to know wonderful people like you that we're so proud to serve. It allows us to learn what's on our customers' minds, and it allows us to, share the stories of the people we serve, just as y'all give back to your communities all the time. All great hospitality businesses are always giving back. And we thought, well, how do we give back? Well, one way we can give back is by providing a platform for people that love this industry to share their stories and to inspire and educate each other. And that's where this, I love doing this. I'll never stop doing this. We'll hit our 500th episode sometime soon, and we're just getting started.
That's incredible. Yeah, you'll never run out of restaurant people to talk to either. There's a lot of us, and it's one of those industries that it's just going to be around forever, at least hopefully. Yep. But people need to eat and need to be taken care of, so it'll be there. I really commend you. That's really impressive. I've always really loved working with you. I really think we all thrive in like communities that we are, we can be close with and have people that we can trust and rely upon. And I want to be able to call and talk to somebody and build relationships with people. I mean, there are so many vendors that we use in the restaurants that we've had relationships with for over a decade and would think of using no one else. And those relationships take time and all that investment, but it's so worth it because then these people that help you operate just as much as, you're operating the business. You couldn't do it without any of them too. Those relationships are super important. And I love the idea of like building a business that goes to a point that you can still manage it and you can still do it how you want to. And I think that's something that in our group, we think about a lot too, as we continue to expand and being able to maintain that autonomy. And, we've tried different business structures and have tried to, we've done partnerships with other groups or done, different kind of arrangements in different restaurants, and always kind of come back to the idea that like doing it for ourselves and doing it how we want to, and having that autonomy and that independence and that freedom is critical for our success. And so that's kind of the direction we're going to continue to head. And, that about, I'm sure you know that about yourselves too, that's something important to maintain.
Paid 100% because it's sustainable. I mean, once you start doing it for other reasons or the reasons that are not the most important to you and doing it your way, then it's not sustainable. It becomes stressful and it becomes something that you don't love every day. And it's just a job. And then that's what we knew if we, went that normal software path, venture capital, multiple rounds of funding. And eventually it's like, what do we like? This isn't for us, and
right.
Not what we love. So this is sustainable I say I've been doing it 16 years and I can do it 16 more, like without even missing a beat, because every day I wake up and I'm like, I love what I do. I love this business and doing it for our reasons. So I'm glad that y'all do that, and you'll benefit from the same things. It always comes back to that. Let's do it. What's our why? What is our what is our why? And if we just follow that, everything else will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Can I ask you one other question? Yeah. I'm ashamed to say I haven't listened to all 400 plus episodes. I'm working on it. But you've talked to so many different people from all over the place. What stood out is what's like a best piece of advice or even like what's a common thread that you've heard from all these different people? What's something that was surprising to you about what connects all of us?
Well, that is a great question. That's why I have been so focused on culture lately. And it's hard. Like, how do you even define culture? Like, what does it mean? It means something different. But like, what y'all have done is you've come together over time. As you said, it takes time, but you've sort of codified, like, what is our why? Like, why are we doing this? What's important to us? And what are the things that are like, what is the foundation of what we're doing? And how do we codify that and live that and educate that and teach that and hold each other accountable to that? Like, oh, I mean, I've just found that all these folks, particularly the ones that, we've been doing it so long now, where I see somebody like we've been serving, Big Red F out there in Boulder for 12 years, and they've got, I don't know, 16, 18 restaurants now, almost 1,000 employees. And somehow they've kept this incredible culture. And it just goes back to like constantly going back to the why and really holding themselves accountable to that. So I really want to learn more about groups like yours and these others that have really figured out how to instill that culture into their organization so they can continue to grow and to thrive, but not lose that culture. Because I've seen the other side of that. I mean, I've seen ones that have lost it. And so I find that fascinating. I also find that what Gerard did and what so many folks do that helps them turn the corner is, I think, humility is it's just a big part of this. It's like, basically, ego is the enemy. And there's a lot of folks that are very talented in this industry that have a very big ego and aren't self-aware enough to understand that ego is what's holding them back from thriving. And then once they do, and they do practice self-awareness, and they do, check that ego and develop humility and understand it's not all about them, and then empower others, man, like, those are the ones that you always see be so successful. And the last thing I'd say is, I've referenced this on this podcast before, and I think it is such a great formula. There's a book I read years ago called Drive by Daniel Pink. And he talked about the things that drive us, right? Like, what makes us want to be successful. And, obviously you have to make enough money to pay your bills and whatever, have some, financial security. But the three things that he found through his years of research, and I see this all the time with folks I talk to, are those three things are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So having some autonomy, as you said, like to fail and make mistakes and learn and grow, to have mastery, to be able to really lean into what you're doing and just become, great at it. And then to have some purpose that's more than just, yourself, to have some higher purpose, which is, a lot of times where culture comes in. So I find that those, of all the folks that I interview, and I think of the ones that I've had the most respect for, that I've maintained friendships with for a long time. That was a really long answer to your question, but all that kind of wraps together. I probably should have a cleaner answer to that, but
No,
that's just, that immediately is all the stuff that comes to mind.
I'm actually impressed you could distill it down into just that, because I'm sure you've talked to so many fascinating people and learned so many different things that it's hard to just, pick one. So I love talking about people and love talking about culture and management and how to sustain things and take care of other people. And I'm always fascinated to hear from others too, that have ideas and have had success and failures too. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
I think that like us, again, that book, Hospitality DNA, it really does capture a lot of that. I think those guys did an absolutely fantastic job on that book. And then, I see it like, the best example I can give is, and I think there is, it's not in everybody's DNA, and then that's fine. Like, a lot of people just don't have, hospitality. Like you said, like you can train somebody to serve, but you can't train somebody to care about people and to want people to feel welcome. And like, I've gotten to know Dave and Dana Query really well. They own Big Red F out in Boulder. Okay. Longtime customers. they've gotten to be friends. When I go out to Boulder now, I stay in their house with them, and the hospitality never ends. Like, I mean, I might come up in the morning and Dana's like making me coffee, and then, next thing I know, Dave is, scrambling eggs, and like, what do you need? And they're like always, it doesn't turn off. Like, they're
No,
always
yeah.
others. They're not thinking about, themselves. They are, I mean, but you know what I mean? Like, they're always like aware of what's going on, and like, are the
Yes.
people around me in a good place right now? Are they feeling good? And it's just
Yeah.
this, the sense that they have, like, that
It's
person,
intuitive.
yeah,
at
like,
that point.
looks like he probably needs more water. Let me go. And they don't
Mhm.
even ask to do. And I'm just sitting there
Yeah.
watching this hospitality unfold in their home. And I'm like, no wonder you're so freaking good at doing this in restaurants.
Yeah.
Live it. So
Yeah, and that is truly, you can tell when people have a mastery that it's all about emotional intelligence. It's about the ability to anticipate the needs of other people and to understand without even needing it to be said, to be able to feel what someone needs before they ever ask for it, and anticipating those things. And when you make those connections and those moments for people, that is so remarkable. And it's just, there's no feeling like it when you've sort of like checked something for them that they didn't even know that they wanted until it was presented to them, and then it was the exact right thing that they needed and they just didn't even know it yet. And it also is what makes it painful for restaurant people to go out to restaurants and actually have an enjoyable time, because you're just hyper alert all the time, and you're looking at everything and you're absorbing it, and you're just like, somebody's got an empty water glass. It's just like painful. But it is like an intuition. It's like that. It's very, you have to you either have it or you don't. It's like the DNA thing. It really does come down to that. Yeah.
Yep, that is exactly right. That is exactly right. Oh man, I have so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do it. I
Likewise.
really appreciate you. And if you listen, I really do. I want to start speaking to folks from groups like yours, that have bought into the culture, that love the culture, that want to share their story. If you got folks there, let's connect offline. And I'm, maybe not hour-long episodes, but 10, 15, 20-minute episodes of people that are parts of this industry, that love their organization, love their culture, and want to share that. I think it's top of mind right now, and I'd love to have that opportunity if you have some other folks there that would like to share.
Oh, absolutely. We'd love that.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day with a nice, warm weather, windows open, fresh air. And
thank you.
hey, thank you. And thank you for all of your questions. That was a really, the table doesn't, or the mic doesn't normally get turned around. So I that opportunity very much.
It was my pleasure. This has been really an honor. So I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity for conversation. It's been great, Will. Thank you so much.
All righty. We'll see you.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
Hey, y'all, before you sign out on this episode, a couple of quick things. Number one, if you listen to us on iTunes, if you could give us a star rating and a comment, it would help so much. Same thing if you're on Spotify, follow us, or any platform that you're on. If you would just do whatever their rating or follow options are. What that does is it tells the algorithms that this content is good and meaningful and valuable, and it'll tell them to put it in front of more people. So thank you for doing that. If you take the second to do that, that'd be so awesome. And also, if your restaurant is either using Excel or you're using some software that's expensive and has a lot of bells and whistles you don't need, or maybe doesn't have great customer service, we'd love to take care of you at ScheduleFly. Simple, easy restaurant employee scheduling software, legendary customer service, 30-day free trial, schedulefly.com. My cell phone number's on the trial sign-up page. Thank you for listening. See ya.